The baby's cries sliced through the cabin before takeoff. Passengers groaned, flight attendants exchanged looks, but she didn't hesitate. 28-year-old Emily Carter, a nurse from Boston with tired eyes and soft hands, unbuckled her seatbelt, turned toward the flustered young boy kicking his tray, and said gently, "Hey, buddy, can I show you a trick?" Within minutes, the sobs melted into giggles. The whole section quieted. She didn't know it yet, but the man watching from 2 rows back wasn't just another traveler. He was a billionaire single dad who hadn't smiled in years. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos like this. Let's begin. The flight attendants were relieved. The baby's laughter filled the cabin like a soft melody after a storm. Emily held the boy's tiny hand as she showed him how to make animals out of napkins, her voice warm and patient. "You're really good with kids," said an older woman in the aisle seat. Emily smiled faintly. "I'm a pediatric nurse," she said. "Kind of comes with the job." What she didn't add was that her shift had ended 12 hours ago, and she was only on this flight because she'd been called home for an emergency. Her landlord had sold the apartment building without notice. She was tired, broke, and had no idea what came next. But for the next 2 hours, she forgot all of that. The boy, whose name she learned was Noah, couldn't be more than 4. He had ocean blue eyes and a soft mop of sandy hair. His nanny sat beside him, clearly overwhelmed, clutching her phone while pretending not to notice the chaos she'd caused. Emily didn't judge. She just stepped in because that's who she was. By the time the plane touched down in New York, Noah had fallen asleep with his head resting against her shoulder, clutching one of her scrub's pockets like it was his favorite toy. When the fastened seatbelt light went off, Emily carefully loosened his grip and whispered to the nanny, "He's sweet. Just needed someone to slow down with him." The nanny nodded, embarrassed. "His father's very busy. He travels a lot. Noah's not used to calm people." Emily offered a kind smile. Then he just met one. As she stepped off the plane, dragging her old duffel through the crowded jet bridge, she didn't see the tall man waiting just beyond the gate, dressed in a charcoal suit that fit like it was made for him. His face was stern, but his eyes softened the moment he saw Noah sleeping in the nanny's arms, and then froze when he noticed Emily behind them. He'd seen everything on the flight. How she'd soothed his son when no one else could. How she'd whispered little stories about brave astronauts and silly dogs. How she'd wiped tears from Noah's cheeks without a trace of impatience. He'd wanted to thank her, but he couldn't find the words. Until now. "Excuse me," his deep voice called out. Emily turned, startled. The man looked to be in his mid-30s, clean-cut with short dark hair and a quiet intensity that made people instinctively listen. "You were the one helping my son, right?" he asked. She blinked. "Oh, Noah's your son? He's wonderful, just a little tired. It's no big deal." But he shook his head. "It is a big deal. I've never seen him that calm before." He extended a hand. "I'm Jonathan Hale." The name hit her like deja vu. "Wait, Hale, as in Hale Industries?" she asked before she could stop herself. His smirk was faint but real. "Yeah, I run that place. But today I'm just a dad trying to figure out how a stranger did what 3 nannies couldn't." Emily felt her cheeks warm. "Honestly, I just listened to him. That's all kids want most of the time." Jonathan studied her face, intrigued by her calm confidence. "Do you work with children?" "I'm a nurse," she said simply. "Pediatrics, mostly." He nodded, then glanced down at her worn-out sneakers and the bag slung over her shoulder. "You heading somewhere?" You look like someone on the run from a 12-hour shift. Emily chuckled. Close enough. Just trying to find a new apartment before my next one. Let me help, he said instinctively. She raised an eyebrow. I appreciate it, but I'm fine, really. But Jonathan wasn't used to people turning him down, especially not people who'd done something money couldn't buy. Bring his son peace. He watched as she walked toward the exit, blending into the crowd. He didn't even realize he'd started following until Noah woke up in his arms and mumbled, "Where's the nice lady?" He smiled faintly. We'll find her, buddy. Outside, rain drizzled over JFK's parking lot as Emily waited for a cab. She tugged her coat tight, shivering in the chill. When a sleek black car pulled up beside her, she stepped back automatically. The tinted window rolled down, and Jonathan leaned out. Let me give you a ride, he said. Emily frowned. You don't even know me. He gestured to the back seat where Noah was half asleep again, holding one of her napkin animals. He does. That moment disarmed her. The boy's sleepy smile melted her hesitation. She opened the door and slid in, instantly hit by the scent of leather and cedar. The car purred forward through the city, its lights blurring against the wet glass. So, Jonathan said after a pause, why nursing? You could have chosen something easier. Emily smiled softly. Because when I was a kid, a nurse stayed with me through a scary night. My parents couldn't afford much, but she made me feel safe. I wanted to do that for someone else. Jonathan glanced at her, his eyes thoughtful. Kindness is rare these days. Most people help because they expect something back. I don't, she said quietly. I just believe in leaving people better than I found them. He looked at her for a long moment and then said, You did that for my son, and maybe for me too. She turned toward the window, hiding her blush. When the car stopped outside a modest rental office, Emily reached for the door handle. Thanks for the ride, and for trusting a stranger. Not a stranger, Jonathan said. Someone I owe. He handed her his business card. If you ever need anything, call me. Emily smiled politely. I doubt our worlds cross paths often, Mr. Hale. He smirked. Funny thing about paths, they have a way of circling back. And as the car pulled away, she stood under the soft rain, holding that glossy card between her fingers, not realizing how right he was. Because less than 48 hours later, they'd meet again, in a place that would change both of their lives forever. 2 days later, Emily's life had taken another dive. The rental she'd hoped for was gone before she could even apply. Her savings had dipped below $200, and her shift at the hospital got cut short due to budget adjustments. She was sitting in a small cafe near Queens, stirring a cup of black coffee she couldn't afford, wondering how everything could unravel this fast. Her phone buzzed with a number she didn't recognize. Hello? Miss Carter? The voice was calm, confident, familiar. It's Jonathan Hale. Her heart skipped. Oh, Mr. Hale. Is Noah okay? He's more than okay, Jonathan said, warmth threading his tone. He keeps asking if the nice plane nurse can come play again. Listen, I have a proposal. Can you come to Hale Industries today? It's important. Emily frowned. Hale Industries? The tech company? Mr. Hale, I'm not sure. I'll send a car, he interrupted gently. You'll understand when you get here. Before she could argue, he'd already hung up. The ride to Manhattan felt surreal. As the car pulled up to a 60-story glass tower with the name Hale Industries gleaming in silver across the top, Emily felt completely out of place in her plain jeans and second-hand coat. The receptionist ushered her to the top floor like she belonged there. When the elevator doors opened, Jonathan was waiting. No suit this time, just a gray sweater and rolled-up sleeves, the kind of look that softened his usual sharpness. "I was afraid you wouldn't come," he said, smiling. "I almost didn't," she admitted. "You didn't exactly give me a choice." He chuckled. "That's fair." Then he gestured toward a windowed office with a view that seemed to stretch forever. "Come on in." Inside, Noah was sitting cross-legged on the floor, building a small tower out of wooden blocks. His face lit up when he saw her. "Miss Emily." Her heart warmed instantly. "Hey, buddy, that's quite the tower you've got there." Jonathan waited until Noah was distracted again before saying quietly, "You probably think I'm crazy for calling you here. But the truth is, I need help, and not just with my son." Emily tilted her head. "Go on." "I've hired the best people money can buy, nannies, teachers, therapists. But Noah doesn't trust anyone. You're the first person who got through to him. And—" his voice faltered. "I think it's because you see people, not positions." Emily's eyes softened. "He's just a kid who needs patience, not pressure." Jonathan nodded. "Exactly. And that's why I want to hire you. As Noah's private caretaker. Travel with us, stay close, make sure he feels safe. You'll have your own place, a salary beyond what any hospital could offer, and full medical coverage." Emily blinked, stunned. "Mr. Hale, that's generous. But I can't just abandon my career." "You wouldn't be abandoning it," he said. "You'd still be helping someone who needs it." Her mind raced. She needed money, stability, but something about taking care of a billionaire's child felt surreal. "I don't even have the right clothes for something like this," she said softly. Jonathan smiled. "We could fix that." Then his tone turned gentle. "You fixed something I couldn't, Emily. Let me return the favor?" She hesitated, then nodded. "All right, I'll try it for a month." The relief in his eyes was instant. "You just made my son's day." That night, Emily moved into the guest house on Jonathan's estate, a sprawling property north of the city, where everything gleamed with quiet luxury. The air smelled like pine and fresh rain. Noah's laughter echoed through the halls again, for the first time in months. Emily spent her first evening showing him how to paint stars on black paper using toothbrush bristles and silver paint. He squealed every time the specks splattered too far. Jonathan stood in the doorway, watching. He hadn't smiled like that in years. Something about seeing them together, the woman who'd brought color back into his gray world and the son who finally looked happy, hit him in the chest. When Noah was asleep, Jonathan brought Emily a cup of tea out on the porch. "You've done more in one day than an entire team of professionals did in a year," he said quietly. Emily looked at the sprawling city lights beyond the trees. "Sometimes all people need is attention, especially kids." He studied her face. "You really believe that, don't you?" "I do," she said softly. "Kindness changes everything. But it has to be real." For a moment, they just stood there, the silence thick with something neither could name. Then Jonathan said, "I didn't just lose my wife 3 years ago, Emily. I lost who I was. I buried myself in work, trying to protect Noah from feeling that emptiness." Her eyes met his. "Grief makes us build walls. But sometimes all it takes is someone knocking gently to make us open them again." He gave a small smile. "And somehow, you're that someone." Emily's throat tightened. I'm not a miracle, Mr. Hale, just someone who cares. That's the rarest miracle of all, he murmured. The next few weeks passed like something out of another life. Emily grew close to Noah, who went from fearful to bright and confident. They spent afternoons baking cookies, drawing rockets, or building small forts out of couch cushions. But there was something else building too, an unspoken connection between her and Jonathan. It wasn't about luxury or attraction. It was about two lonely people slowly learning how to breathe again. One afternoon, as she helped Noah ride his bike down the long driveway, Jonathan came out of the house with a letter in his hand. His expression was tight, unreadable. "Everything all right?" she asked. He hesitated, then handed it to her. "You tell me." It was a legal notice from his late wife's family. They wanted custody of Noah, claiming Jonathan was emotionally unfit. Emily's stomach dropped. "They can't do that," she whispered. "Oh, they'll try," he said bitterly. "They've been circling for months, but they don't know what's changed." "What's that?" she asked softly. He looked at her, his voice steady. "You." Emily's heart pounded. "Me?" "Yes. You've brought proof that my home is stable again, that Noah's thriving. You've done more than you realize." For a moment, she didn't know what to say. The rain started to fall softly again, just like that night at the airport. But this time, she wasn't cold. This time, she felt something she hadn't in years, belonging. Jonathan took a step closer, his tone gentle. "Emily, I don't say this lightly, but I don't think you just saved my son. I think you saved me." Her lips parted in surprise, but before she could answer, Noah's laughter echoed through the yard. And in that sound, pure, bright, alive, Jonathan found hope again. 2 weeks later, the custody hearing hit like a storm. Jonathan's late wife's family sat across the courtroom, armed with lawyers and accusations. They called him emotionally unavailable, too focused on business, and even accused him of neglecting Noah. Emily sat behind him, trembling. She wasn't family. She had no reason to speak, except her heart wouldn't let her stay silent. When the judge asked for a statement from a neutral caregiver, Jonathan's attorney turned toward her. "Miss Carter, would you share your experience caring for Noah Hale?" Her pulse thundered, but she stood. "Yes, Your Honor." Her voice was calm but full of emotion. "Noah doesn't need a perfect father. He needs the one who shows up. Mr. Hale might run a company, but he also kneels down to tie his son's shoes. He sits through every bedtime story. He laughs again. And that little boy. He sleeps without nightmares now. That's not neglect. That's healing." The room went silent. Even the opposing lawyer lowered his pen. Jonathan's eyes glistened as he looked at her. A silent thank you that said more than words ever could. The judge ruled in Jonathan's favor. Custody remained his. Noah ran into his father's arms, and for the first time in years, Jonathan truly smiled. Outside the courthouse, rain began to fall again. Jonathan turned to Emily. "You didn't have to do that?" "Yes, I did," she said softly. "Because kindness isn't about obligation. It's about love." He stepped closer. "Then let me return that kindness, Emily. You've cared for my son, healed my home, and reminded me what life feels like. I don't want to lose that." Her breath caught. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," he said with a small smile, "stay, not as an employee, as family." Tears welled in her eyes, and for once, Emily didn't fight them. She looked at Noah, who was waving his paper airplane through the rain. "Are you sure?" she whispered. Jonathan nodded. "I've never been more sure of anything." And as the three of them walked toward the car, hand in hand, laughter rising above the storm, it wasn't wealth or status that defined them anymore. It was something much rarer. Kindness, the kind that found them 30,000 feet in the air and never let go.